Good morning. The Buddha's most powerful teaching probably is of the Four Noble Truths. And that's basically that there is the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path to the end of suffering. And I'm going to go through each of those, but just want to kind of start out with that. As far as suffering, what is meant by suffering, it comes from the Pali word, and it basically means thirst or like a hunger. And if you really think of a lot of your pain and suffering, it's because of a thirst or a hunger, that something just isn't right, and you have to do something to adjust it. That could mean that you need that new fancy car, could mean you need to do drugs, could mean you need to have multiple partners, could be in anything, but there's that uneasiness feeling. And that's what really that suffering is. It's a strong, uneasy feeling. And that there is suffering. This world is full of suffering, and it will always have suffering. And you have to come to that truth that suffering exists. And you can't deny it. I'll go a little bit more into detail tomorrow. Have a good day. Now go find yourself. Good morning. Yesterday I spoke about, we started the Four Noble Truths. And basically I'm going to go through some review, and then we'll do a little bit more. Okay, if you remember, the Four Noble Truths were that the first one is that there is suffering. Number two, there's a cause of suffering. 3, there's an end to pain and suffering. And 4, there's a path that leads to the end of suffering. Remember, suffering is thirst. It's a feeling of thirst, of not feeling like everything's perfect. And it could be slight, or it can be very strong. And we can react to it in different ways, and negative behaviors or seemingly good behaviors like overwork, being overly people-pleasing, in our jobs, that kind of thing. And we're going to talk about the right kind of job and that kind of thing later. The Dhamma, this is all based upon, is basically the truth to as it is. Truth to how everything is in this world and then the next world, or whatever the next worlds are. But it's a universal truth. It's just the structure of how things are. It's like the blueprints. And what the Buddha is doing is he's saying, okay, you've got a problem. Let's diagnose the problem. Let's see what what there is available, and then let's find a path to find the answer to the problem. And in the name of the Four Noble Truths, the word noble, it's not that they're just noble things to learn and for you to be a noble person, but that's what the noble people did, the people that were enlightened. They followed the Four Noble Path. And the Buddha actually says, if you master the Four Noble Truths, that's the definition of enlightenment. So if that's what you're looking from Buddhism, enlightenment, master the Four Noble Truths, which is what we're going to be doing right here. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day. Now go find yourself. Good morning. We went through in the first couple. I did part 1 and part 2, and in both of those, we started talking about that there is suffering in the world. That's the first noble truth. That there's a cause, and we'll finish up talking about that today. And that there's an end to suffering, and then that there's a path to the end of suffering. And to finish up, that people have an uneasy feeling that they can't explain. Things just don't feel like they're ever right. So then what they do is, this is kind of the cause, and the second noble truth is there's clinging to something that's impermanent. And the Buddha talks about different kinds of clingings and stuff like that. You can go more into detail, but I'm not going to go into that right now. I think it's pretty self-explanatory that there's different kinds of clinging. There's like clinging to youth. There's clinging to, you can think of a lot. But like the clinging to youth as an example, you've got the impermanence, the idea that you're not going to be here forever. And that's basically what everything is centered around. And that's pretty much the cause. And if you really look at everything, before we go into the actual plan, it's important to go into it with the right intent and the right view. And hopefully we can provide you with the right view right here. But you got to have the right intent. You got to really think about why you're getting into this, why you're pursuing this path. What are you avoiding clinging to? What impermanence are you most affected by? Really think about those things. And we'll be talking about the Eightfold Path, and that's the way out. And we're going to work on that. But first, we had to understand our suffering, the cause of suffering, the clinging and impermanence. And now that there's a way out, we'll be talking about it in the next thing. But until we meet again, think about your intent. And we'll try to provide you with the right view. And you need to have the right view too. So try to get those things a little bit in line. And you can look online for right view, right intent. Those are very important when you start. And when you finish the Eightfold Path, you got to start that again. The intent, and then the right view again. But we're not that far yet. So, think about your clingings. Think about what you feel strongly about as far as impermanence. Especially people my age, I know how it feels. So let's try to work and get some of this stuff finally straightened out, I've spent years dealing with crap, let's try to get it taken care of here. It's not that hard. It just takes a lot of work and self-reflection. But you got to be willing to be honest with yourself. You got to be brutally honest. You got to let that ego go. Until you let that ego die, you're not going to get too far. But the Eightfold Path will help you do all that. So I'm excited for you if you're doing this. Let's do this together, and I'm still working on it. So we'll do this together. Have a good day, and have a good. Good morning. We talked about the Four Noble Truths, and basically the Four Noble Truths are like an elephant's footprint, and all the other animal footprints can fit inside. And that's basically all of the Buddhist teachings could fit inside the Four Noble Truths. We talked about that there is suffering, or dukkha, in the Pali word. So you got dukkha, or suffering. There's a cause of suffering. There is an end to suffering. And there's a path to the end of suffering. And today we're going to begin the path to the end of suffering, called the Eightfold Path, or the Noble Eightfold Path. And it's basically the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, but also it involves 8 different steps that work together to help you get to the point of wisdom where you can get beyond the suffering. And they're not in any particular order. They're used together. They all kind of fit together to work as one. So don't try to go in any order, but you have to start with the right conduct, or right view, which we talked about before. And it's right view is like your eye, and it's gonna guide where your car goes. And conduct is how you're gonna get there, is like your body. So you gotta have the right view first. It's very, very important. It is all the other ones come together, but you have to get the right view first. And that's the Four Noble Truths. So once you understand that, really go through there and really experience that and feel that, and dig deep into yourself so you can get that. And with this Eightfold Path, it's not any extremes. It's a middle way. So we don't take any extremes. As far as conduct, you can look at that. We don't kill, but we don't let people take advantage of us either. It's not about extremes. A lot of religions and stuff, they talk about, doing stuff to your body to make yourself whole. But the Buddha explains that it's your mind. Your mind precedes everything. You gotta get your mind right, Once you get, once you get your brain right, you're good, And that's what we're talking about here. So quit screwing around and, let's take care of these things that are bugging you. This stuff works. I swear by it. I swear by this stuff. I'm not doing this because I'm getting paid or anything. I'm doing this because I got through this stuff. I was in a horrible hole. And I'll get into that a different day. But it will change your life. But you gotta do it, and you gotta do it with the right view. You gotta go into it the right thing, for the right reasons, and you have to have the right information. You don't want to be driving into a wall like you have been. Let's stop driving into walls. Let's go to the park. Have a good day, and now go find yourself. Good morning. Yes, in the last video, part 4, we spoke about dukkha, as it's also known as suffering, or the clinging to impermanence. And we talked about that there's a way there's a cessation to it. We can end it. And that there's a path to get rid of it. And we're going to start really working on that today. With the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, it's with what the Buddha did, and what you're going to do is basically the same thing. You're going to rediscover something that's there. It doesn't have any form. It's called Dharma. It has no form. It just exists. And you're going to discover it on this little journey. So you're going to be like a little Buddha, which you are. You're going to go through the same path that the Buddha did. Isn't that exciting? That's better than going to the store, isn't it? It's a big deal. We use wisdom to combat ignorance, which is, dukkha is basically ignorance of the way that the way that the things are, the way that it is. It's not like a put down. It's just a lack of knowledge of the way things are. So to get that, we have the Eightfold Path, and that's going to work together. But you have to understand the Four Noble Truths first. That's very important. For the Eightfold Path, it's kind of broken up into three parts. There's right view, right intention. That's where we kind of start. And these are in no order. Do not ever use them in order. They work together. Then you got speech, right speech, where you try not to say anything harmful. You always try to use loving kindness. But again, with all these, you're using the middle way. You're not going to any extremes. That's basically what it is. For each of this is not going to any kind of extremes. Be truthful, in your speech. And speak only when you have something to say. Don't say anything that's false. With all these 8 truths, 8 Noble Path, look it up. There's all kinds of stuff online. And then we'll give you all the listings of the different things that you need to work on under each to be more specific. I'm just going to tell you kind of in a common language kind of way, so it's not so technical, because it can get very confusing, It's a very complicated, you need wisdom to actually start this whole process. But you got the right speech, the right action, and the right livelihood. And those are all like conduct ones, the second ones. Okay, you got speech, action, and livelihood. So that's your conduct. And then you got your concentration, or you got your effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And we'll talk about each of those and go deeper into each of those. But you got right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And all those are to help train the mind. And when you train your mind, you'll get insight. When you get insight, that gets to wisdom. And what's going to happen is it's going to increase as far as the insight and the wisdom. And then everything's going to start to make sense. And at one point, it's just going to kind of click. It goes, whoa, okay, I'm here. It just kind of makes sense. You can't explain it. It's just a click. It just happens. But when it all comes together. But the thing is, even when you get through the 8 steps, that's called the mundane Eightfold Path. But there's also the super mundane Eightfold Path, which is more with the reaching, envisioning, and working towards nirvana. That's where it gets really exciting. But right now we're just focusing on getting your life figured out. Trying to get rid of some of that suffering so you can do some stuff. I hope you're going through your own dukkha or clinging, trying to discover what's bothering you. What are you holding on to? And try to go down like 1 or 2 different levels. There's the level that is obvious, and then there's another one, and then usually it's like that 3rd level that really gets down to what's causing your pain. So do that. Next time, I'm going to talk about my little process of going through that, and we'll continue with the other steps. Have a good day. Now go find yourself.